The update is there is no update. That Derek McInnes has said he's not given up on Lawrence Shankland. We will discuss all of that and the other news coming out of Hearts' pre-season training camp in Spain, as well as the news from earlier this week that Hearts chair Ann Budge will be stepping down. We will discuss her legacy and if it was the right time. As you already know, I am Craig Cairns. You have reached, I don't know why I'm saying it like that, Hearts standard, and I am joined by a well-cooked Joel Sked. How are you doing, Joel?
Warm, sweaty, sticky, yeah, and it's very warm, and I went up to the training as we'll come on to talk about earlier on, or all today, and it's just standing there watching them, and you're just cooking, but to be involved in it and running around. So they were doing a session this morning, 9:30 till so around 11, and then they went to the gym. Then they had kind of lunch and downtime, and they were then going back out at. So it's quarter to 6 in Spain. So they were going out about 5:30 for another session, and the heat. And speaking of the players, they very much confirmed it's difficult to do what they're doing.
Yes, we will later on. We'll discuss all that in more detail later. We'll show a couple of videos that you've taken from there. And yes, it does look hot. Just before we do get into all of that, we'll just say that Hearts Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Okay, so the headlines that came out of your chat today with, well, you and another media outlet's chat with Derek McInnes was that the latest on Lawrence Shankland, everybody expected, including ourselves, I should say, expected some sort of decision before they went to Spain, one way or another. We kind of, not definitively so, but we kind of thought it was going in that direction. There's still not really been any update. There's a few quotes appeared over the weekend. McInnes said today that the fact that Lawrence Shankland isn't here would suggest that it's becoming a bit more difficult to make it happen. He seemed a bit more on the disappointed side, Joel, I took from his quotes, but at the same time sort of kind of comfortable with whatever the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, he has left it's essentially like leaving the door open. It's not closed on Shankland, but I think there's the realization that the door is closing, and it looks like it's not going to be the conclusion is not going to be what Hearts and McInnes wanted. McInnes, as you see in the quotes that we got on Hearts Standard, he really wanted Shankland to stay or be extended, and he as you said, he made the boards aware of where he stood, but he's also aware of the board's position, and he said himself, Hearts put a strong offer to Shankland. It's not what he was offered 18 months ago. You have to remember when Hearts offered him that, he was in the midst of a 31-goal season. Now it's different. I believe that there's the wage structure now with Jamestown, and while it's an increased budget with the money from Tony Bloom, I think the wage structure has been altered slightly. Even still, with the money that was offered, he would still be the highest paid player at the club. So, yeah, it's getting to, and you see with a lot of comments, whether it's on here or social media, that it's getting to the point where Hearts probably, there needs to be a decision, right, time to move on. But I don't think they want to be as definitive as that. I think they want to leave the door open just in case that Shankland does, or an agreement does come to pass. Hearts are still looking at alternatives. That's something that McInnes said today will be stepped up. And the fact that, and he mentioned this a couple of times, that he wanted Shankland to be in Spain. The fact that Shankland's not in Spain, I think, tells a big story about it. And also the fact that Shankland himself spoke at the end of the season. I think it was after the St Johnstone game he spoke to him, and he said that he wanted to be somewhere or know his future by pre-season, because he'll want to get in and get up and running at pre-season. And then you've got a player coming in and having to do catch-up, and that's something that McInnes didn't really want. So yeah, each time we speak about Shankland, we're getting closer and closer to the end point, but the end point isn't quite there. But it's very, very close to getting there. And like, people are asking if he's leaving. I think Shankland's already left. He's no longer contracted to the club. It's about trying to bring him back. And at the moment, I've gone through different stages of like people asking me, well, how confident are you? I went from when McInnes came in being quite confident to then being less so. That confidence kind of peaked again the other week, but now, yeah, it's definitely on the low end, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think what you said there about him having to play catch up, you could probably apply that to some other targets as well, not only in the sense that there could be other players out of contract to come or have just left the club at the end of last season, or they're signing from a club that's on a different schedule or something like that, and their club's not back at pre-season yet or something along those lines. So it could be the case for any replacement as well. I'll bring in a couple of comments here too from Bazcomp to begin with. I've always liked Shankland, but even I'm becoming tired of the saga. It kind of relates to a few of the things you were saying there. He continues the fact that pre-season is starting, but he's still not committed. Is starting to grate on a bit, to be honest. I wouldn't quite go that far myself, and I wouldn't say it's about commitment. I think he's still got to look after himself. We don't know all the details of exactly what's on the table and what the differences are and these kind of things. And I wouldn't we still don't know. But as you were saying there, Joe, you're kind of leaning towards a bit more now that he's probably going to not be a Hearts player next season now.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's it's certainly looking a lot like that, and it then means that Hearts need to switch things up, because getting Shankland would have been taking a lot of pressure off, or not a lot of pressure. We're trying to find the right phrase. That it's with Shankland. If Shankland doesn't stay on, then Hearts need to shift their focus and bring in one, perhaps two strikers to replace Lawrence Shankland. So it means that there needs to be more work done in the transfer window. Whereas if Shankland stayed, that alleviates a lot of the pressure within the transfer window, and you've got a key player from last season, someone who you just stick into the team, and he's the number 9. So that's another aspect of this. It's going to be really interesting to see is how Hearts pivot and what type of player or players that they targeting to replace Shankland if it is confirmed that he's Hearts have moved on from.
Now, as we said, you are in Spain. How about you start by telling us, look, before we go into the training that you witnessed this morning, just tell us where you are, what the location is like, that kind of thing.
So I am in the southeast of Spain, on the coast, but Hearts are in a resort further inland, and that's where they've been since Saturday, and that's where they are until this coming Saturday. It's been a lot of double sessions, triple sessions if you add gym work into it. It's been speaking to, as I mentioned, speaking to the players. There's been a lot of hard work, and especially because they left quite early on Saturday morning. It's been intense, but in the heat as well. Speaking to McInnes and that kind of stuff about is that they've not wanted to, because of the weather, they've not really dialed it back. They've kind of pushed the players because they want them to be ready for Dunfermline a week on Saturday. And a big thing is, and McInnes has talked about it, is he wants a team that can run and run for a long time, and that is something that's getting put into the players' legs. But everything's there from, as you'd expect, at like a 5-star resort where they've looked after very well. I think McInnes is happy with the setup. They're able to do what they need to do, and they're well looked after. So yeah, it was good to see up close and watching training and speaking to people. It was interesting to see how players are doing and how kind of what the mood is and the feel is around the club.
We will keep talking while I kind of play a couple of videos that you've taken here, just to give people an idea of what the setup was like. But there was an interesting thing to just kind of speak to what one of the things you said there. But there was a point where the players kind of were displaying their exhaustion. I can't remember exactly how you worded it. And then this is a lovely shot. This next one, you said that there was then a call from McInnes that you're going to have to run 90 minutes against Dunfermline or something along those lines, and it gave the players a second win. So that kind of speaks to what you're saying about that being not just put into their legs, but put into them mentally as well.
Mentally,
That's what he wants from them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that wasn't there. So that was the other day. I was just speaking to someone at the club who was observing, and I think they were feeling it in their legs, and it was McInnes just shouted a bit of kind of I can't remember the exact wording, but there might be an expletive in there or two, and it seemed to just like work straight away to the players, and they like the level, the standards, the intensity lifted, and it seems there's been a lot of kind of buy-in, and you see it with especially the start of the session where McInnes it's the kind of rondos, and it's McInnes leading it. He's controlling them, he's encouraging them, and being enthusiastic, shouting players' names, adding a bit of humour into it. So, which is all required, having to get up for their would have been Saturday, Sunday, Monday, with 5th or 6th training session within the last 3 days.
Just to jump back ever so slightly, regular contributor James Govan, he's asking, are you boys not fed up with the Shankland chat yet either? I would say to a large extent, yes. I would just like it over and done with one way or another. I have my preference, but I would which way I'd like it to go, but I'd like it to just be over. The weekend just passed in question, being an example, because it was just, I was off, but it was just constant checking my phone in case I'd missed something, because like, all summer it's just been constant breaking news from Hearts, and this has been hanging over us. So yes, very much we're looking forward to the end of this saga.
I kept on just on that. I kept on having. I was at a festival over the weekend in London, and kept having it on Friday and Sunday, and kept having to go to the entrance, because that's the only place you get free Wi-Fi, and the signal was so bad. So that was just going in and checking stuff. It's beginning. I think McInnes himself is fed up talking about Shankland, because Shankland's not Hearts player, and I think he just wants to ideally have Shankland and move on. But I can understand why him and the club don't want to give up on Shankland, just because of, I think McInnes knows exactly what he can do and bring to the team. So yeah, sorry to go back on that, but
I brought it up, but he did say something like, I've left it to the club, and that's very much him sort of indicating I don't really want to talk about this anymore. There's nothing to really talk about. It's kind of like what he was trying to say there.
Yeah, and I think there's a few people taking that comment as if to say that he's pointing the blame at the club or the board for like I've told them what I want, but that's not the case. Having spoken to him, spoken today, and he realizes, and he talked about the strong offer, and he is very much on side with where the board and the club stand in the position with Shankland.
Back to the training, and a comment to take us into that. Halkett is going to be, this is from Basher, Halkett's going to be a big player for us this season. Looks in great shape. This is a constant theme that keeps coming up. You mentioned it again in your article, and hopefully his injuries are fully behind him now. Basher finishes with, I'll play this final video, and you can start to talk about that. You mentioned a few players that impressed you. Yep. You could start to tell us about a few and why.
Yeah, it's. I know we had the conversation about Halkett. Was it last week or the other week where I think felt like it was Craig Halkett's fitness coach. But speaking to people at the club and seeing up close, Halkett is absolutely shredded, and that was
exactly the word I had been told. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, exactly, and without giving away figures, in terms of his body fat percentage, is elite athlete level, and he's not the only one. There's a number of players who've looking absolutely brilliant condition. Bob Bennett here mentions that another player that's really stood out today was Wilson. Looked sharp in the videos, and he was watching the small-sided games. He was really, really good. just with his movement to kind of score goals, get across defenders, but it was also his intelligence. It's something they're working on, is his ability to hold up the ball, and it seemed like there was a focus on him to try and protect the ball with his ball at his feet. But it was really, really good. He just looked so lively, and he was moving the ball really well. He was getting in really good positions, and yeah, he's considering he's only had. I spoke to him just before we left the training ground. 10 days, I think, he had off in total, just because of his involvement with the Scotland's national team, the Scotland 19s or 20s it was. So yeah, he was definitely someone who really stood out and was, I think, could have a really, really big season. Derek McInnes really, really likes him. As for others, sorry, I've just off the top of my head, Christian Borchgrevink, that's been another one there's been a lot of speculation around him. The ACL is a lot of nonsense. Just a rumour that there just seems to be. Speaking about it this summer, just felt like there's been so many more rumours this summer and so much speculation. But that was definitely one that was a lot of nonsense. He didn't take part in this morning's training session, but he will he's meant to be this evening, and he has been involved in training. One player described him, I think he was described him as a machine, was up against him in a bounce game, like a inter squad game, and just said wouldn't stop running, just constant running. Barry from Even News and I spoke with him this afternoon, so that interview will be going out tomorrow morning, I think it is, where he talks about various things, and he talks about his load management, etc., and that's why he's not been involved in all the sessions. Yeah. Following on from what you said and wrote at the training session you went to back at the Orium, Kiaridis' touch, my word, it's very, very impressive, and I think he could be a really exciting player. He wants to cut in on his right foot. He wants to make a movement and take a touch and get on the right foot. But when he gets on his right foot and gets space, he's really dangerous. He's got a shot on him, and he looked lively. Benny,
yeah, he looks powerful. He looks like he's got that powerful body shape.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he looks like he'll be able to withstand the rigours of Scottish football. Benny was certainly being encouraged to be more. What's the word? I'm trying not to say M and A after feedback on YouTube comments too much, but he was getting forward. Like, it was a small-sided game, but he was being encouraged to get forward or contribute more or shoot, and he was. It was at one point, I think it was Blair Spittle said he was on fire, because in shooting drills and in the small-sided games, he was scoring, he was finding the back of the net. Trying to think of who else. Harry Mill was really, really good. He looks like he could be a big player this coming season. He's just a big unit of a guy, strong, quick, good left foot. I remember speaking to both Paul Hartley and Ian McCall, and they talked about his goal threat, and you certainly saw that with him working on it. He was taking some corners for. Some work with the new set piece guys. Some of the defenders went away with him, and then there was a kind of shooting exercise. So I probably missed one or two players who looks really good.
What about, do you back up this from Bob Bennett? It says Wilson looks sharp in the videos. What I noticed from the training session the week before was that just his body and his posture, he looks more like a first team player now. He looked like he sort of, not that he didn't fit into the group, but remember, he only got into the senior dressing room. He was only legally allowed into the senior dressing room just a few months ago. So it will have taken time for him to sort of embed himself within that. But I thought he looked like more of a sort of first team player.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said earlier, it just looks really lively. He was on his toes at all point, and he was, again, could be in for a big season. And at the moment, you look at him and think he's got a really good chance. Obviously, a lot will happen over the next few weeks, especially before the start of the league season. But a real good chance to stake a claim for a starting position going forward. But can't think of any more. There'll be other things like Musa. Watching him for a bit seemed to struggle, and then all of a sudden it was just banging him in left, right, and centre, and nutmegging people, going on the keeper. It was just everything you can expect from Musa. But he's a chaos factor.
Maybe it was once everybody had tired in the heat or something like that. That's where he started to thrive. He's like, this is where I'm in my element. Robert Gill asks, any word on players leaving? Squad needs trimmed badly. I don't disagree. I think Hearts are still very early in the window and the work that they want to do, but I think McInnes is very aware that this needs to happen, isn't he?
Yeah, there'll be more coming out over the next couple of days about that. We did ask McInnes, but because the quotes are getting used at a different point, I can't say too much on it, but McInnes is comfortable at the moment with where Hearts are, but there is a realisation that there will be in time, and naturally players will move on. So it's not as if he's not at the door of the training ground pushing people away.
And kind of relatedly, he mentioned today, spoke about the number of players that he has and the help that having an extra pre-season friendly will give him, and giving him a chance to see more of those players or give them more chance in a game situation. Oh, have we lost Joe? Right. I will continue for a second. Yeah, so Derek McInnes said on his Hearts TV interview earlier today that they had arranged a friendly. Oh, are you back?
Yes. Sorry. It was
no worries.
This is what happens when you've got kind of sketchy Wi-Fi in the hotel. It's been fine until now.
I thought we had done well. There'd been one slight interruption, but I thought we had done really well until now, given the circumstances. Yeah, I was just leading into, and you can pick up from here, but I was just saying that Derek McInnes confirmed today, speaking to Hearts TV, that they're going to play an extra pre-season friendly against St Mirren, and it kind of fits into what we were saying about there being more players and him wanting to see more play, and it gives him more of a chance to see players in a game situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to have two friendlies. I think they've got another one next week before they play Dunfermline as well, that just to get minutes in the legs. So I'd imagine the friendly, I don't know what he didn't say, but I don't know what the plan is each day, but I'd imagine there's basically going to be 2 games to get as many minutes as possible for a lot of players. So I think that was really important to get the St Mirren game get St Mirren game organised. And I think Robert Bond says here, the forthcoming friendly with Crawley Town, what level are you at in English football compared to Scottish football? Will it be a good test for McInnes and the team? At the moment, I don't think it's about the opposition. I think it's just about playing games before competitive action, whereas unlike the Fleetwood game last season, where that was probably a bit more about having a shape, having a really strong team, and being a test towards going into this the competitive games. This is just about getting minutes in the legs.
We'll move on to our final section, and that is about the news earlier this week that Ann Budge will be stepping down as chair of Heart of Midlothian. It's a role she's held since 2014, but she initially became involved with the foundation of Hearts the year before that. It comes just after Tony Bloom completed his investment into the club. First of all, Joe, just give me your reaction to this big news that came out of the club earlier this week.
Yeah, I think it was like a natural conclusion or a natural kind of endpoint to Ann Budge's time at Hearts, something we've talked about before. I do think that with this new era of Tony Bloom and Jamestown and moving forward, I think it does need a kind of freshness, and it's without you kind of focus on that with taking away what Ann Budge has done for the club. And I just look at it, and there's a lot of different views on like Hearts in general. We've talked about before, every aspect of Hearts, there's divided camps and people having different views, and Ann Budge was no different. And it does feel like it was increasingly becoming increasingly more divisive. And I just felt, I think I said this on another podcast before, that just kind of her presence at times just felt kind of divisive within the support. And going now, and it allows her time to kind of work up to the AGM and move on. I just think it's just natural that a time comes where you move on, and this is it. And especially where this is the perfect time to do it, having being key in the Bloom deal and contracts and getting it over the line. I just think it's the right time for all parties to move on without taking away from what incredible work she has provided and done for Hearts and the everlasting contribution she has made on the club.
Yes, which was confirmed a while ago, but I suppose the key difference now would be, and it goes back to something Jerry Mallon said in his update the other day, is that Hearts are now trying to implement a model that's a bit more sustainable and less reliant on benefactors and things like that. And ironically, it comes at a time when somebody's putting a £10 million investment into the club, but still that is with a view to then implementing something that generates more income. But yeah, I suppose that's why the timing of it's now. That's why the timing of it is after the Bloom deal is completed.
Yeah. That's because I think there was a lot of calls for Budge to be removed, and would you throw in Andrew McKinley? They all seem to be grouped as a package, even though they're not. That for calls for both of them to be removed. It's like you don't do that while you're in the process of bringing Tony Bloom into the club. And this isn't what would say. This isn't Tony Bloom getting involved at Hearts and going right. And Budge, you need to move on. They're two very separate pieces of news, but it's just the way that things have aligned and the timing of it. So yeah, I just think it's a good move, and it does allow for more kind of fresh, just a freshness of the club at the top. And I think that's really important, that there needs to be strong alignment at the top of the club, because that's the only way that Hearts are going to get the success that they want to achieve with Bloom's investment and Jamestown Analytics. Everyone in the club needs to be aligned going forward. And you've got James Frank coming on board. We'll have a new finance director. You've still got the two Foundation of Hearts members, and then you'll have a new chair as well. So yeah, it's very interesting times.
Yes, and succession plans will be set out in the near future. There has been some, before we kind of finish by talking about our legacy, there have been some criticisms. I suppose nothing was ever going to be, it was not always going to be smooth sailing all the way through. It never is in football. There's probably legitimate criticisms in there. But I think it's fair to say that those have been over the top and overblown at times. Not to say that every protest or every bit of criticism has been against the board or Ann Budge has been unwarranted, but it has boiled over a few times. It was, I know we mentioned it at the time, but it was heartening that there was a round of applause when somebody made a point of saying at the one of the latest meetings that what they see on Twitter and some of the criticisms isn't representative of the entire Heart support, and there's people there that still broadly have support for her and the board. But yeah, it has got a little bit ugly at times, though, hasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, some of the criticisms being justified. I wrote about it yesterday, where you go back to, I feel like you can trace it back to like Levine and giving him too much power. They just giving him too big roles in one, and then the time she allowed. And to be fair to Ann Budge, she came out and said she admitted those mistakes. I think the involvement in Naismith appointment as well, pointing to still having a lot more sway than maybe perhaps viewed as well. And while it's not something that overly grates with me, I do know that a lot of fans, and see it when people message me, is the kind of JB contractors, the family connection with that and around that as well. So like there's always going to be criticisms, but like you said, I think the legacy and the positive, the fact that she came into the club and put up a lot of money up front. Yes, she's been paid back, so someone had to do it to help kind of save the club and not only put it back on its 2 feet, but help it move forward. And there's no question that's been done. She kind of rooted it back in the community with the new stand, been huge for Big Hearts. There's been a lot like added to Tynecastle, like the Memorial Garden and the heritage and stuff like that. It was like really important, and there's been a lot of criticism around the hotel, but I have to remember like investing in stuff like the hotel and the like conference rooms and the restaurant that allows Hearts to be like a 7-day-a-week business and bring in a lot of money. So yeah, there's loads of nuances to it, but her impact over the piece has been hugely positive, and it's a legacy that's, especially leaving now and with the Bloom deal, and there's been a lot more positivity around it. The legacy doesn't get tarnished in any way, and I do think the legacy is one of those where it's because it's so close that it's just happened that the more removed we are from it, and her spell is at Hearts, the better it becomes and the more fondly it's looked upon. I think that's the case, like nostalgia. It's the case with a lot of things.
Robert Gill says, do you think the chair will come from the current board? Does anyone officially rule themselves out? There's not been anything said other than, I honestly can't remember if it was Jerry Mallon or Andrew McKinley said the other day that they would set out the succession plans soon. And Scott Alexander says here there would be no HMFC if Ann Budge doesn't buy us. So we all need to thank her. And just to kind of, like I said, to finish on her legacy and then maybe jump back into a couple of other comments that have come up. That is her legacy, really, isn't it? I mean, if not that, then it's who knows who else would have stepped in and what would have unfolded. And the fact that she did step in and Hearts are in the position that they're in now, for all the flaws that there has been over that time as well, in terms of league positions and relegation, season or demotion, sorry. It's that she stopped the club from going under. That's ultimately the legacy that she leaves.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's one where a lot more positive stuff's been in like in the past, and then there's been more criticism recently on. So yeah, it's and I'm sure there'll be talked about more as we get towards the AGM. But yeah, as I said, is that she's had an everlasting contribution for Hearts, but it was the right time for Ann Budge to step down as chair. And I think they've already started looking at who could be the next chair as well.
We'll finish on a couple of comments before we get out of here, and you can go enjoy your Spanish evening, your South Coast Spanish evening. How's Dando looked? The Gorgill Boys podcast is asking, do you see him getting a chance under McInnes? I thought he looked pretty sharp. I thought his touch looked pretty sharp in the passing drills that I saw the week before. Did you manage to see any of him?
Yeah, bits and bobs. Didn't stand out like good or bad. That's the best I can say. But in terms of getting involved, I'm just not sure. If he's going to play, I think most likely be, again, and potentially a wider role rather than a central role.
Andrew Forster suggests that Cabangu will score for fun in the number 9 spot. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily disagree. I would maybe disagree slightly with the number 9 spot. I think Cabangu is probably going to need somebody up alongside him. I think we saw a lot last season that you maybe lack something from the partnership with him and Wilson, and the best football you saw from Cabangu last season was when he was a front two with Shankland, I thought, or Shankland just in behind him.
I think he needs to get better in front of goal before he's going to be banging a lot of goals this season.
After that really fast start as well.
He's finishing to be banging in goals. He either needs to get loads of chances, or his finishing needs to be more crisp. He needs to be more efficient in front of goal.
There were many more comments, especially on Shankland. We could probably go all night with Shankland. If you like what you've heard there, please get over to heartstandard.co.uk where you can find more of that content, including the content where the articles where that content has come from. I've linked them in the description. Please give us a wee subscription if you haven't already. Enjoy the rest of your night, Joe. And
thank you. Back to doing some writing.
And we will see you all